Hi yogis, welcome back. So today I wanted to teach you 4 different ways to do vinyasa. If you've been following along with me and flowing through some practice with me, you'll notice that we do vinyasa really frequently. Almost at the end of every single flow, we're hitting this thing we call vinyasa, which is just a series of postures that flows us breath to movement. So the traditional vinyasa is the Chaturanga up dog, downward facing dog. If for whatever reason we need to modify, maybe pregnancy, maybe you're working on a back bend, maybe you're working on strengthening the muscles needed for the pose, there's a bunch of different ways to vinyasa that'll help you get there. So today we're going to go through 4 different modifications of vinyasa, starting with our pregnancy modification. So let's all make our way into downward facing dog. So hands are down, feet are down, butts are up. On your inhale, you'll roll yourself forward to your high plank pose. From here, instead of bending your elbows, I'd like you to tap your knees down to the ground so that you come into your tabletop hands and knees. On your inhale, you'll arch and look up towards the sky, opening your chin away from your chest, coming into your cow spine. And then on your exhale, we'll do the opposite, round, press the ground away from us and hollow out. From here, press the palms into the ground, tuck your toes, and lift your legs up into your high plank pose. This is your inhale. Exhale, we'll lift our hips up and back, downward facing dog. So all together, it'll look like forward on the inhale to high plank, exhale, lowering the knees down to the ground. Inhale, arch, coming into your cow spine. Exhale, rounding, pressing back into your angry cat. Inhale, do your high plank. And then exhale, drag the hips up and back, downward facing dog. So again, that is a wonderful vinyasa for if you're pregnant, you can't bring your belly down to the ground, or you have a little baby bump as an obstruction from Chaturanga or upward facing dog. This second one is a vinyasa that you can do if you're working on a back bend. It's a little bit more opening for the upper back, for the thoracic spine, a chest expander. Same thing, we're gonna get started with this one in downward facing dog. So hands are down, tuck your toes and lift your hips. On your inhale, we'll roll ourselves forward to our high plank pose. Similar to our first modification, we'll lower our knees down to the ground on our exhale and point our toes behind us. But for this one, I want you to tip your tailbone up towards the sky so you're already coming into that back bend. Shift the weight forward into your fingerprints, and on your exhale, lower your chest and chin down onto the mat. So we call this inchworm. I'm in a pretty big thoracic spine opener, a really big chest expander here. Then I'll pull myself up, coming into a cobra. Because I'm a super backbendy person, I do my cobras with straight arms, but always cool to take baby cobra, bending your elbows, or maybe somewhere in between. On your exhale, just like a normal vinyasa, you'll tuck your toes, lift your hips up and back, and press yourself into your downward facing dog. So this one in sequence looks like inhale, roll forward, exhale, knees down, tilt the tailbone, bend your elbows, coming into your inchworm, pull yourself up into your high cobra, inhale, and then exhale, drag your hips up and back, finding your way into downward facing dog. Again, great option here, especially if you're working on a lot of back bending, a lot of heart expanding. That inchworm gets the chest and the shoulders ready for that kind of work. The third option is a lot of us are still working on the strength needed to do that really intense Chaturanga push-up. If I'm honest, I would say about 50% of the time I don't do Chaturanga because I'm like, not what I'm working on today. I want to do something else and I don't want to blow out my shoulders. So this is a great way to modify vinyasa if you still want that breath to movement flow, but are trying to take a little bit of the power, a little bit of the strength out of the practice during the vinyasa. So again, let's come to down dog. Hands down, feet down, butts up. On your inhale, roll yourself forward to your high plank pose. Similar to the last 2 vinyasa, we'll tap our knees down to the ground and point our toes behind us, but this time keep your body really strong in a plank. Shift the weight forward, bend your elbows just like you would Chaturanga. Then from here, lift your chest up and maybe float your kneecaps off of the mat for upward facing dog. Takes a little bit more lower body and core strength to maintain this. On your exhale, you'll drag your hips all the way up and back, finding your way into your downward facing dog. So this one again, breath to movement. On your inhale, come forward, high plank. Exhale, knees down to the ground. Shift the weight forward on your inhale. Bend your elbows halfway, exhale. Inhale, lift up your chest, lift up your gaze. Exhale, drag your hips up and back, downward facing dog. So again, that vinyasa is great if you're working up, building up the strength to do a full chaturanga. And then finally here, we have our traditional or full expression of vinyasa, which is chaturanga, up dog, down dog. We do this one a lot, so come on with me and I'll show you how to do it. Hands down, downward facing dog, hips go up and back. On your inhale, roll yourself forward to your high plank pose. Keep shifting the weight forward, bend your elbows behind you, coming into a really narrow push-up. So notice how my elbows are pinned in towards my ribs. From here, I'll point my toes behind me, 1, 2. I'm on the tops of my feet. The only thing that's touching the mat here in my up dog are my hands and the tops of my feet. Then on the exhale, I'll drag my hips up and back, coming into downward facing dog. So again, full expression one more time. On your inhale, roll forward, high plank. Exhale, bend your elbows, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog, lift the chest. Exhale, downward facing dog, lift the hips. And there you have it, 4 different ways to do vinyasa. 1 for pregnancy, 1 for back bending, 1 for building the strength to get to chaturanga, and our full expression. Feel free to play around with these anytime you're flowing. And I'll see you on the mat soon.